come to exactly the same spot every time, I would deny and reject God. You are no longer your own boss. You need to get off your throne and let God be on the throne of your life. And then I remember at the time, I said to myself, no, I don't want that. I want to, be my own boss. I want to pursue all the dreams and the goals that I had. I had a vision of God on the throne, and He is Father God. And it was just golden. I didn't believe there is a God, but somehow I sort of sense there's some kind of God figure out there. We call that 上天. And so, but I never really sort of seriously thought about it. I met quite a number of Christians. One of them, so a uni student, he's also studying law degree, and he's from Taiwan, and he was particularly kind and loving towards us. We're from China, so Taiwan and China. So anyway, he was really, really kind, and I didn't understand why. So I basically asked him, why are you treating us so well? A group of us who from China who struggle with English a little bit. And he just said, well, I do it for the glory of God. And that so shocked me. So I'm like, what? For the glory of God? Yeah, so I suppose that planted a little seed in a way. And then I think one day when he asked me very seriously, he said, do you want to believe in Jesus? And I said, oh, well, what does that mean? And he said, basically, you are no longer your own boss. You need to get off your throne and let God be on the throne of your life. And then I remember at the time, I said to myself, no, I don't want that. I want to, be my own boss. I want to pursue all the dreams and the goals that I had, And so I thought to let go of my complete ownership of my life and to listen to God. I don't want that. So I was like, no, thank you very much. Yeah, so after I graduated, I got a top tier law firm, really good job. That was my dream. I achieved my dream. And, I had a harbor view, the opera house, beautiful, fancy, everything, well paid and everything. But I still felt sort of empty. I thought life, there's so much more to life. After 2-3 weeks, the harbor view, the whole fancy building and everything, they just seemed nothing, I no longer was satisfied. So I was still searching for something, but I don't know what I was searching for. I just knew life, there's more to life than what I achieved, success, status, and prosperity. So I remember I had a very bad experience, which really sort of challenged me to realize when I'm in control of my own life, when I'm on the throne, life in the end is still meaningless. Ultimately, everyone's gonna, getting old and die one day. And then some people, they're nasty, they treat people badly to achieve, whatever they want. And then, so what's the point of being kind or being good? There's no point, because we're all gonna die. We're all gonna get old. So I basically really question the meaning and purpose of life and why do I live? I had no answer at all. So I remember reaching sort of almost the bottom of my life, and I think that's the moment I started to almost realize, if I'm on the throne and I've tried my best, I don't have all the answers. Yeah, yes, I did. So amazing. So after that, one of the colleagues that I used to work with in the big law firm, so she was also an atheist. So I caught up with her and she said, oh, I'm quitting as well. I'm going to go to Hong Kong to work for one of the US law firms. And then I was like, well, that would be very similar to what we do, and so why do you want to go all the way to Hong Kong? And so she said, because they pay you 3 times more, and Hong Kong is exciting, the nightlife, the expensive handbags, and the all the fancy stuff. And so I was like, what? I can't believe. I said, you're better than that. You go all the way, chase after money. And then we kept in touch through Facebook. And on Facebook, after about, I think, maybe 8 months or so, she became a Christian. And so she shared every day like Bible verses. And then she shared photos of her in Africa, did those short-term like mission trips, right? Teaching the African kids English. And there's a group photo of a lot of people serving the people in Africa. And I was like, what happened to her? She, chasing after money, went to the most one of the most materialistic society. And then she became a Christian, and she just so different. And the Bible verses she shared, some of them, I found them really like amazing, but a lot of them I didn't really understand, but I just knew it's something so lofty and so inspiring, and so I was very curious. I want to know more about what she believed and why she believed. So then she was coming back to Australia for 1 week, like a holiday, like annual leave, and then I messaged her. I said, oh, can I please catch up with you? I want to know what happened to you and what do you actually believe now, because I don't understand some of the things you share. And then so she didn't reply my message. So I thought, oh, she's still maybe offended because so she didn't have time to see me basically. But then she said that morning when she prayed, because in the morning she would pray to God, and she said that God very specifically told her, I want you to cancel your appointment for the afternoon. I want you to go and see Yvette and tell her what I've done for you. So when she told me that, I was like, what? So God talked to you and you could hear from God. So that was like, to me, was very weird at the time. I was like, oh, this is crazy. So anyway, so she went on and explained what happened to her after she, arrived in Hong Kong. And then I remember I said to her, oh, I'm so happy for you. You are so different, you just more joyful, and you just have sense of purpose with your life, and I'm just really happy for you. And I said, but it's not for me. So I don't know why I said that. I think I was a bit resistant. I said it felt really familiar, it happened so many times in the past. But then I felt like after hearing really patiently and eagerly, I was very eager to hear, but in the end I would come to the same conclusion, and I'll come to this almost like this very familiar spot, come to exactly the same spot every time. I would deny and reject God, saying it's not for me, right? So, it's I was like, wow, just so familiar. I've come to exactly the same spot. And then so she said, wow, God loves you. He sent all these people over the years to tell you about him and the gospel. And I said, and I was like, in my mind, I was like, that's so weird. Why would all these random people, right? I met them, in the street, in the uni, and all sorts of different places. Why would they all have some sort of connection with God? Why would, it just didn't make sense what she said. And then the second thing I shared with her was, I said, all my life I've, tried to achieve my goal and strive and work hard and want to make my parents proud, want to be better than other people, prove my value and all of that. And so I said, every time I set a goal, I try to achieve it and I achieve it, right? Every time after I achieved it, I was happy only for a very short time. And then I felt so empty, like this empty void in me, this hole in me, this empty space in me, like nothing could completely fill the hole. So, and then she was like, she just grabbed my arm. She was so excited for me. She said, wow, you are so blessed, because you could physically sense the hole in you, because the way God created us, we are not complete without God. Only God and His perfect love could fill that hole in you, that void in you. So when she gave me that answer, I was like, wow, I've never heard of that, and it sounds like really amazing, makes sense. But then I remember very distinctively, like a voice just came really clearly whispered to me, which said, but she assumed there is a God, And then so I was like, yeah. So I said to her, yeah, but you assume there is a God. And then and then her face just dropped, you could tell she's like, oh, it's okay, I'll pray for you. But before she left, she said to me, because she saw my iPad was recharging, and she said that, oh, maybe like one day, maybe 10 years time, 5 years time, you wanted to find out more about God, about Jesus. There's this really good preacher called Timothy Keller. He is he basically was called by God to set up this new church in the middle of Manhattan, New York. And most of the people were like lawyers, investment bankers, or managing consultants. They're very highly intellectual people, successful people, and most of them they just were atheists. And she said he is very intellectual, very logical in his approach. You will love his sermon. It will suit you very well. And then so when she mentioned the word sermon, I remember I was saying to myself, I will never ever listen to a sermon. What a waste of time. Why would I have time to do that? I remember that. So I didn't really want you to add the app. My chamber was in the middle of Martin Place, so I had to walk to Wynyard Station to go home with my husband. We catch the train together. And so I remember it was something really, really miraculous happened. And then suddenly I felt this strong power, this energy was pulling my heart towards God. And I had a vision of God on the throne, and He is Father God. And it was just golden, and it was glorious. It was full of light, and it was warm and love, and it was just like beautiful. And my heart was so drawn towards God. Like I was like, I want you, like I was so drawn. And then this voice, this really clear voice just came and said, you don't want to believe, you don't want to be a Christian. How do people look at you? They would think that water went into your head, So that voice just came. So of course now I know that was Satan, must be Satan. But at the time, I was so scared because I think Satan knows our strength, like our weaknesses, because at that time, what I really, really, really care about is how people look at me. I want to be outstanding. I want to be different. I want to be better than other people to prove my value and my worth. So for me, how people look at me is very important. So when that voice said, how do people look at you? Oh, I just completely froze. I was just really scared, really panicked. So this is what I did, right? I was like, in the middle of Martin Place. I was so scared. I just did this. I was like, no. I just cut it out. The energy, the power, whatever it is that was pulling my heart. I just want to cut it out. So once I did that, nothing, like I felt nothing, the whole energy, the whole power, the whole vision, it was completely gone,
Stay tuned to the end and we will reveal the story behind a true portrait for our guest in this episode. We are a self-funded project, so if you have been encouraged and would like to support our channel, please go to our website and support us. Perhaps one day we may be able to come to you and share your story.
I got to the chambers 9 o'clock and I wanted to start working on this affidavit. I turned on my computer and then I tried to double click the document and then I look at my finger, it was not moving. So it was almost like, my heart and my mind was so consumed with or so distracted by something that I couldn't bring my finger to do that little double clicking. I just couldn't do it, right? And then at this point, a voice came. So it's not like say my voice is a female voice. It's more like a message, came to me. Like someone just spoke to you. It's like that. So the message was, go to St. Mary's Cathedral. And so, of course, it was out of blue, so weird. My next question was, why? Why do I go there? It's so odd, right? And so I ignore the voice and I still try to look at my finger. I try to basically double click and open the document. And it's not moving. My finger was not moving. It's not going anywhere. And I couldn't open the document. And then the message came again, go to St. Mary's Cathedral. And so, of course, I argue against the voice. I basically said, I have this affidavit. I've got to do it. I've got to start doing it. Otherwise, I won't be able to finish on time, I just ran. I ran to St. Mary's Cathedral and I sat down one of the pews towards sort of the first third, towards the front. And I remember, that place is like beautiful, that whole building is just very tall, the space was just amazing. And then I opened my eyes. So when I opened my eyes, I remember from that angle, this energy, this light just struck me. And then this really, really clear message. It's like someone was just speaking to me like that, and the message was, I have loved you and blessed you for so many years, And I just burst into tears. I could not believe it, because when I think that was God, when God was speaking to me, like telling me that, He also showed me like vision of when I was 17, when I came to Australia by myself. And I remember I often would write diary, and then usually at the end of the diary, I would ask same question over and over. I would ask, is there, like in Chinese, it's like 上天 means like heaven figure, upper heaven, or yeah. So I would say, is there a 上天? Why are you blessing me so much? So because I sensed I was blessed by this being, in the universe, this power or this energy or whatever it is. So like intuitively, I sensed that. So then when He told me, I have loved you and blessed you for so many years, He was telling me that it was from the moment I arrived in Australia, and then He knew I was searching for answers. I was searching for Him, to find the answer, to find Him. And so He said, this is your answer, because you've been asking this question from 17, and I knew you were searching. I knew you were asking these questions. So this is your answer. And I was like, I could not believe, like I was right, I sensed Him, I sensed the blessing, right? And so I could not believe it. But at the same time, I cried so much, because I was like, I'm so sorry. Even yesterday, I did that. I deny and reject you. And over the years, so many times. So I was just like, I'm so sorry. And then at the same time, I had so much joy and happiness. I could not believe I found God. It was just the best thing ever happened to me. So I was so happy and so sorry at the same time. It was very mixed sort of emotion. And then I was crying, pouring, and then it was very embarrassing, and then I remember a group of like Chinese tourists, they were walking around the cathedral, and then I remember a few ladies, they were pointing their finger at me. It's like, oh, look at that woman, she's crazy, look at her, she's like crying like crazy. And so, the day before, I really care about how people look at me, right? That was before I met God. But I think God already set me free after I encountered Him, because when those people pointing finger at me, it was before I'll be so embarrassed. I will just quickly run away, not to be seen like that, because I really care about my face and how people look at me. But like I was totally set free. So I was like, I can't care less. They're pointing finger, they're talking about me, they're judging me, whatever. I couldn't care less. So I was just still crying and being myself and enjoying the moment, And then suddenly 3 words came to me: love, peace, joy. So after those 3 words came to me, right? Suddenly, I physically sensed that this hole in me, the void that I told my friend about the day before, it was completely filled. It was just, I was full. I was complete and whole. And I was just like, I could not believe it, because I never felt that way. I've always felt something's missing. I felt emptiness in me. But that moment, I felt I'm complete, I basically said to God, I love you back. I love you back. But how can I know more about you? Which God are you? So and then the thought came, he led me to this place, and I saw Jesus on the cross, but I just knew, they believe in Jesus. So I had about 2 or 3 Bibles at home, and I before I opened for like 20 seconds, and I was like, this is impossible, not interested. So I closed it, put it on back to the shelf. So then I was like, okay, I will start with the Bible. My next question to God was, I said, but how can I read the Bible? I opened it before. It's so hard to understand, especially the Old Testament just seems like impossible. I would read it wrongly. The context, the history, all of that, I have no idea, how can I read it? And then Tim Keller, just clearly Timothy Keller, the day before I said to myself, I'll never, ever, ever listen to a sermon. So I think we should never say never. You never know, right? So I was like, oh, of course, I should go back and listen to the sermon, the free app. So I ran back to my chambers and I, find the app, and then I went through, so I remember I just picked the one called The Lord of the Earth. It was about 35 minutes or so, and then it was amazing, Later on, I realized that's how the Bible described, but I didn't know that. So I was basically saying to myself, wow, I've tasted the water that satisfies my soul. My soul woke up, I became alive, because what I felt was my soul was so thirsty for all my life, all these years, that I look at other people and they're the same. They're no better than me, right? They're not satisfied with their life. They're striving to achieve all these goals. And luckily, I was able to achieve all the goals I set for myself. So then I felt so empty still. And then I felt like my soul was so thirsty and nothing could satisfy my soul. So when I listened to the sermon, that is the water that actually satisfied my soul. And I could not believe it. So I became alive and I had so much joy, and I felt, wow, God's word is so delicious. It's so delicious. I want more. So I listened to a second sermon, and I listened to it, really, really, really enjoy, so thirsty, so hungry, really eager to learn more and more and more. But as I was about to open like the third sermon, God really clearly said, no, stop. I want you to go back and do your affidavit, because I forgot about the affidavit already, And then, so I was like, oh, okay, I'll obey, God's speaking to me clearly, so I could get it done so efficiently. I felt God gave me power, strength, wisdom. So I was able to do work, like secular work, whatever work. Even from that day, every single time after that, I was able to, because He's in me, I have His presence, I have His help and His wisdom. I can do things more efficiently and to the point. Then I went home, right, with my husband, catching the train together. And I remember telling him, and then he had exactly the same response that I had. He's like, oh, that's a very amazing story. I'm very happy for you. It's not for me. So he said the same thing, so funny. And then of course I said, oh, it's okay, God will bring you to himself one day at his timing, because I learned from my friend who's not pushy. I was not gonna push my husband either, but a year later he became a Christian as well. The next day I woke up, I was reborn. I was a different person. The reason I know that is I used to have this like bad sort of thing that I do, like habit that I used to do, and it's almost like my secret sort of thing, and I didn't like it about myself. I didn't like it when I sometimes do it, and so I always try to use my willpower to. It's almost like someone addicted to drugs or alcohol. You want to quit, right? But so many times I try my own strength to quit completely, but in the end I will still go back to the bad habit. I will still go back and do it. And I just hated it, and I hated myself also for that. And I was like a slave. I was bound by that sin. But the next day I woke up and I'm a different person. Like I was no longer bound by the thing that I used to do completely. From that day, never ever do I ever desire, never be tempted, and I just completely got rid of it, that bad habit. And so amazing. So for me, that's important, because sometimes people will make me doubt about whether I heard the voice, all that. I mean, really, I can't really deny what happened to me, but sometimes I still have a little bit of doubt when they say, oh, you can only hear God from the Bible. Some people will tell you that, right? Some pastors or theologians. So I sometimes will have a little bit of doubt, but then God gave me that concrete evidence, the change the next day. So I knew it was real, it was real what happened to me, the change in me. Well, I think there's actually a lot of things, but I think for me, the picture that came into my mind is, in God's eyes, I am so precious. And I had this vision of me and Jesus in a little boat, and then he was holding me in his arms, and I am just completely resting in his arms, and I'm so precious in his sight, and he look at me like I'm so valuable to him, and he's I'm the object of his love, and he just hold me and he will never let go, so that sort of that image of that I'm so valued and loved by him that I need nothing else. I need no one else, just me and him in that little boat. There's two of us, and it's just so beautiful. So that image keeps coming back to me, and I felt that warmth and that love, and I no longer need to prove myself or my value, my worth, because I know I'm so valuable in his arms, in his eyes, and in his sight. So yeah, that's the picture, I would say, that how I see how he look at me, basically very precious. Yeah.
In each episode, we asked our guests to use one word to describe how do they think God sees them. And using that one word, we use photography to create a portrait of them as an artistic expression. This is how we did it. Yvette used the word precious, and she gave us a beautiful picture of she being in a boat with Jesus holding her. I wanted to stay true with what Yvette described, but to ask Jesus to show up in my photo, that means I would be asking for his second coming. But one thing is sure, I needed a boat. My first plan was to hire a small boat and ask Yvette to stand in it, but I think it would be too dangerous. And then I thought maybe I should get a second-hand toy boat instead, but I couldn't find any suitable ones. And then my wife said, why don't you use a paper boat? And I think that's a great idea. And this is the final result. And I'm just amazed how the sky turned out, even though I couldn't physically ask Jesus to stand in the boat. but it definitely shone his glory in the sky. And this has been my prayer for true portraits. It is not something that I could just rely on my own strength or creativity, but I expect God to show up every single time in every photo. It is only by God's provision that I could achieve what He put in my mind. You may not be a Christian, or you don't believe there's a God, but I hope through the photos and the testimony of many people whose lives were changed by God in a powerful way, I hope one day you could also experience God Himself and His goodness in your life. Head to our channel to watch the behind the scenes video and see how we took this portrait. Thank you for watching. See you next time.
Don't forget to like, subscribe and share our channel so that more people can hear about the good news. If you would like to share your story about how you discovered your identity in Christ, please go to the Share My Story page on our website. One day we may be able to come to you and share your story.